it's about being true to who you are. And don't forget that as an authentic leader, you need to be confident that what you bring to the table is the right thing to bring to the table.
Welcome to Nexia's Women in Leadership series. My name is Nexia Reddy and I will be your host over the next few days, interviewing some of the incredible women right here at Nexia Sydney. We will be talking about their achievements throughout their career, how they balance their work and personal life, and get an insight of what it means to them to be a female leader in one of Australia's top accounting firms. This is just in time for International Women's Day, where the theme is Choose to Challenge. And we would love you to choose to challenge yourself to become a manager, a director, a partner, or a CEO of a firm just like Nexia Australia. So join me through these series where you'll be inspired by these women to take the next step in your career as they share their wisdom of how they've gotten to where they are today. I look forward to seeing you throughout this week. Welcome back to Nexia's Women in Leadership series. My name is Nexia Reddy, your host throughout this series, and I will be interviewing some of the incredible women here at Nexia Sydney. Today we have a very special guest, a very busy woman in the firm, Kristina Irish. She has been newly promoted to Chief Operating Officer in January.
That's
Yeah. So we're super excited to have her here with us today to talk about her achievements throughout her career, talk to us about how she balances personal life and work life, and what it really means to Kristina in terms of being a leader within Australia's top accounting firm. So please welcome Kristina. How are you?
Thanks, Nexia. I'm very well. Thanks for that lovely introduction. And I'm delighted to be here today to share some of my insights with you. And I really hope you find this useful and interesting. And please give me your feedback if you don't. I really want to make this useful for everyone that's listening.
That's great. So you were newly promoted as Chief Operating Officer. What did that feel like for you?
Well, I guess it's been a bit of a time coming. I started at Nexia as Executive Manager in October 2019. I guess my career has been sort of building to this point for a long time. And I've been wanting to move into a role like this for a long time, and I've actively worked towards this role. So I guess I'd like to share some of that with you if you're thinking about your own careers and how you may be able to structure your own goals.
So tell us a little bit, before we do get into that, because that's I think quite important for our audience to understand how you've gotten from where you were to where you are now. But give us a bit of an insight of your career and what you've been up to throughout.
Okay, so my background is starting in business operations from the very beginning of my career. I started in a program in general management for 2 years, a bit of a cadetship actually, and basically rotating throughout the whole of the business, which gave me a really good insight early in my career as to the fact that I love variety, and that was really where I wanted to head. I've had a long career, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but essentially I've sort of progressed my way through. I've been in senior leadership roles for about 15 plus years, in operations management of every kind. I guess a few highlights. My last role was Executive Director for a G20 organisation, and that was a very privileged position for me to start building business operations and then moving into the executive leadership team and then running business operations and working as a COO delegate for quite long periods of time. So I definitely got the taste for it, and I know now what I need to do, and I feel really confident to be able to deliver what I need to deliver.
That's brilliant. I love that you say that you feel really confident because you've done the work. You've had the mentoring and you've worked quite hard to get to where you are today.
Yeah, that's right. And I know we're going to talk about confidence a bit later on, but confidence is something that it depends on who you are, but if you've got that level of expertise and experience, just keep going, because you'll get there in the end. If you feel a bit uncertain, it's so much easier once you've had experience doing a role for a long period of time.
Yeah, the experience I think is also very important with that as well. So give us a little bit of insight in regards to, within your career, have you always wanted to be a Chief Operating Officer?
Well, I started, as I said, I started my career in sort of general management, and I always knew I wanted to find a career that enabled me to apply my broad range of skills of business management and leadership, and that fulfills my expectations for a really positive career. I do know that I love variety and I like change, and I like a challenge.
Yeah.
And if you read anything about a Chief Operating Officer, that kind of ticks all those boxes. So
and this is actually
that works for me.
It's quite an integral role within Nexia, because you are working with the board, you're working with all of the directors to achieve the strategic goals of the firm. So what kind of insight do you have with regards to that and working with the directors and the board?
Okay, that's a great question. That is something that I wanted to talk to people about, because my role is actually Chief Operating Officer and Company Secretary, so I'm kind of split between running the business operations but also the governance of the business, and working closely with the board committee and the board of directors and the divisional executive team. And one thing that I did want to share with everyone is talking about leadership and my experience of Nexia, because these are insights that I really want you to hear. And specifically as an example of strong leadership, through the height of the health pandemic, the board committee met every few days. Every few days, and which was very intense. And they had a commitment. They all started emailing on a Sunday afternoon when we knew all this stuff was just hitting off. And they were keen to meet on Sunday afternoon to have a board meeting. And they really made that commitment from the beginning to ensure the health of the people and ensure the health of the business. And the strength of the leadership throughout that time was really phenomenal. The directors and leaders worked for many, many hours overtime to ensure the business stayed strong, but also that the people were supported. And from my position, from my observations, I am privileged to be in this role and to have these insights into the board. We're in really good hands. And I'm really grateful to have observed this and to know the leaders of Nexia and what they do and what they say what they do, and they really care about people and our clients. And for me personally, it's been incredibly reassuring, and I think it's an example of great leadership. Seriously, people, we're in a good place. We really are. Like the way that the business has managed this time with no cuts to pay, no redundancies, nothing, pay rises, promotions, growth. We're incredibly lucky when you look out in the rest of, the sort of businesses in Sydney, other professional services firms. Nexia's just done exceptionally well, and that's partly because of the commitment of the leadership team, but also because of all the people. So well done, everyone. We've done such a good job.
And that, I think, coming into the organisation, that was one of the key things that was put forward to me about the strength and how there is that career growth and development within Nexia, which is so important, especially because we also take cadets that join the company very early on, and a lot of the staff stayed throughout their whole career within Nexia, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it really is phenomenal.
Let's get more into detail about you.
Okay.
So, tell us about your first role. You've gone through it a little bit, but in terms of your first role at Nexia, and what were your highlights within that role, and what do you think would be a key highlight for you as a leader within your new position?
Okay. So my first position within Nexia? Okay. So I started as executive manager, and that role was working in a similar way with the managing director and the board to deliver on executive level strategies, but it wasn't fully managing the business operations. So that's kind of extended that even more. I don't know why I did that really. I've just made myself much more busy, but it's a good thing. But I think one thing I'd like to say before I move on to leadership is my experience of the promotions process. So I worked in the role as executive manager for just about a year or so, and the board asked me to apply for the role of Chief Operating Officer, and I went through a external review, which was a little bit different to that which everyone else does, but similar. I had to apply and demonstrate that I was up for the job, basically. And my experience of that was that the board was looking for the best candidate for the role. It was not gender specific, it was who's the best person for this job, and have they got the right expertise, qualifications and experience. So gender didn't come into the discussion, and it was just really whether or not I could deliver what the business requires.
Yeah.
And from another thing I'd like to say is that I am privileged in observing the promotions process through the board committee approvals, and my observations is that the conversations are extremely robust and fair, and every process is extremely considered and ethical.
So how did you feel through that process? Talk about that for us.
Look, I think it's really stressful for people. It was definitely stressful for me. You know, a lot hangs on it too. And you know, I'd like to acknowledge that for everyone that goes through that process. I feel for you, but I've been there, I've done that. I know how that feels, and if anyone wants any support through that process, then feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be able to support each and every one of you. As a leader, I'm very passionate about developing others. I'm further along in my career, and I have that confidence to be able to pass on what I've learnt to others, and that is probably the most rewarding element of my role as a leader.
Great.
In terms of leadership, I'm very passionate about leadership, people.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be a great leader?
In terms of me and my experience, I've been a leader for a long time, but I'm a fellow of the Institute of Leaders, and I've also studied leadership. I'm now majoring in leadership in a final master's. And so it's an area I'm quite passionate about, having studied it for a few years, and also reflecting on leadership practices throughout the beginning of my career. So in my opinion, I've got a lot to say, and I've written some of it down because I don't want to miss anything out.
These are good insights. These are great insights. So please tell us.
Yeah. Great leaders need to be inspirational, respectful to others, empathetic to others, lead by example. That's a big one for me.
I think that's
with
great.
Consensus.
Yeah.
We also need to focus on the results of the business and long-term goals. Strong leaders need to be sensitive to the agenda of a wide range of stakeholders. Leaders have to test the current position. We need to be influential.
When you mention current position,
the current position of the business,
right?
Not your current role.
Okay.
We need to be testing the current position. Are we doing the right thing? What else can we be doing?
Yeah.
Where do we need to be headed? Are we future focused? Are we thinking about growth of the business? Are we thinking about growth of the people? So that's what I mean about testing that. Leaders have to have a clear vision for the future. We need to collaborate and encourage new functions and innovations. That's something else I'm passionate about too, innovation. I'm also majoring in innovation in my Masters, which I've nearly finished.
When do you finish your Masters?
I'll be finished by May, so wish me luck,
oh,
everyone.
That's great.
Yeah.
Big celebration.
Yeah, there will be. So I also feel leaders need to network outside of their normal sphere of influence for growth and development of themselves, so they can then share that with others and hear differing points of view.
And I think that's great that you mentioned that as well, because it's really important within your career that it's not just the people that you work with, it's also outside of that within the industries and getting to know who they are, what they offer, and how you can contribute to that network as well. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. It's sometimes easy when you're really busy and you're focusing on your career. You might be a bit blinkered, but look up, look out.
Yes.
You need to have a really broad view.
Look up and look out. Love that.
Yeah. And for me personally, it's about being true to who you are. And don't forget that as an authentic leader, you need to be confident that what you bring to the table is the right thing to bring to the table, and to remain unfaltering with your own values and ethics. leading from behind and developing others. So I'm quite passionate about that. My own outlook and being true to who I am is absolutely where I am in the stage of my life and maturity, and I'm happy to be confident to be able to be who I am.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, because we need more of that to shine through, especially with females in their leadership roles, to understand that you can be yourself, you can get to where you need to be without sort of trying to be somebody else. It doesn't work that way. You really do need to be true to who you are.
That's right, because people see through it if you're not.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, what was the steps that you took to get to this position?
Okay, so there's a few steps that I've taken to get to where I am. Work experience and study have definitely provided me with a rewarding sort of pathway and successful career. But planning's good, people. Planning your career and progression.
Yes.
So look, having strong role models and mentors is important, but never think that they are the key to your success. You might hire a business coach. You might decide to link in with a mentor, but at the end of the day, you're the one that can drive your own career. It's down to you, and that makes it hard because sometimes it's very wide.
But I think it comes back to your point though, in knowing who you are and being confident, because we can work with mentors in different ways, and when you know who you are and you're true to your direction and what you want out of life, they're mentors, they're there to mentor you, but you don't have to follow every single step of theirs. They're guiding you.
They're guiding you, and one thing I would recommend is reflective practices. That's one thing that I've learned as a leader. Reflective practice is really important, and continuously reflecting is really important because we're not perfect. You may have heard of the term the imperfect leader. We're all human at the end of the day, and it's how you manage things if you make a mistake, and how you learn from those mistakes is really important. So I think once you've hit, if you look at it in incremental steps, just take small steps, baby steps, any steps to move forward. Once you've hit the goal you're trying to achieve, reanalyze where you're at and where you're heading in your career, in your personal life. My sister was a huge planner and constantly used to ask me, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I was young and I found that a bit overwhelming, to be honest. I thought it was a bit too much, but I actually see the value in that now.
Gives you clarity.
It gives you clarity, but you need to put the time into it.
Yeah.
And just sit down and start thinking about what's important to you, because you'll find that you'll start coming up with some really great insights, and make a plan and then just go for it.
Take the action steps,
just
like you were saying, step by step, just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's they're the steps that I've followed to get to where I am.
Brilliant.
I've had some lucky breaks as well, and I've also taken quite a few risks.
What motivates you?
Oh, what motivates me?
Because this role is, quite important in the firm.
Yes.
And you are a very busy woman.
I am, but I like a challenge.
Yes.
And so I'm in the right job. I really do love a challenge. That motivates me to get out of bed.
That motivates, yeah.
I want to do good things for the firm and the people.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I want to bring people along on the journey with me, and with the firm, and for everyone to rise up, for everyone to develop, for everyone to be on the pathway that they want to be on, and that I'm passionate about, and that's what motivates me. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And then motivating others.
Yes.
Do we talk about that?
We can talk about that.
Okay.
How do you motivate others?
Look, talking to people, finding out about them and their passions, and taking the time to guide them in their roles. Going out for lunch, drinks, a fun activity are a good way to get to know one another and find out what makes people tick. Ultimately, for me, I really love seeing people happy in their job. I'm bothered if people are down and out and they're not happy. I need to know about it. And seeing people achieve their goals is definitely the most rewarding element for me of being a leader and leadership.
Yeah, that's great. Those are such key things as well that helps you motivates you, because, I mean, you know, it's what gets you up in the morning.
It really is,
Yeah.
and especially where I am now, because
It's very
I feel more
heart-centered.
comfortable. Yeah, it's very heart-centered.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable in myself, and I've got a lot to give and a lot to share. So, yeah, it's a bit about me. Motivations.
So tell us, what, as a leader, what was one of your biggest lessons that you've learned? Actually throughout your career, not just as a leader. But what's the biggest lesson that you've learned?
So there's not a specific light bulb moment that I've gone, oh boom, that's it, I've done it, I've learnt my lesson. But it's been it's something that I've reflected on through my recent studies about decision making. And when when you have less experience and potentially therefore less confidence, you might not always get it right, but get on with it and apologise if you make a mistake. Don't hide from it. Going back to authentic leadership, move on. Just take ownership for it if you make a mistake, and make sure that you don't sort of pass that on to someone else. It's just put your hand up and say, okay, I stuffed that up, and whoops, how can I do that better? So look, I like a relatively fast-paced way of work, and slow decision making for me can be a bit frustrating. So my lesson that I've learnt through my career is, as you grow more confident, allow yourself sufficient time to make a decision, but don't be too slow. Use your expertise, judgment, and any data that is behind the decision and run with it. Let people know what you're doing. Sometimes we're all so busy, it's easy to miss that one, and it's one that I have to sort of constantly realign myself to, just to ensure people understand why you've made certain decisions and how you're going to work with it.
Very key as a leader.
Yeah, so I guess I chose this example of leadership because it's one that I have reflected on. And earlier in my career, I was a bit less experienced, and I'd sometimes wonder if I was making the right decision. But now I've got an actual framework on which to base decision making on, and so I find it really enjoyable because I'm like, boom, 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 I know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm confident.
Again,
I've got a better
clarity.
understanding on how to do that. So. There are frameworks for decision making. If any of you struggle with that, there's plenty of things you can find online that will help with that. And there's actually a ethical organisation that helps with good robust decision making as well. So check that out online. It's helpful.
They can Google that.
Yeah.
Perfect. We love the internet.
Yeah, we love the internet.
Okay, so let's get into how you balance your work and personal life.
Yeah, look, that's a really good one, especially at the moment, because I'm quite driven and I'm quite focused, and I've got my goals and I'm like, boom, doing that, and then all of a sudden I've got this new role which wasn't planned at this time exactly. So I'm juggling some stuff right now. Yeah. And so it's not perfect. I'm definitely the imperfect leader, and I think I guess you just need to grab these moments and take the moments that you can. Don't put it off. Don't put off taking time out. Don't get burnt out, people. Just take little snippets of it. Get out into nature. Personally, that's what I do. I get out into nature with family and friends, often together. So I multitask. My family and friends and my nature thing. It's about being efficient, everyone.
Do you find that when you take time out, that you're more productive at work?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just need to do it. Because, even if you just take, don't have your lunch at your desk. Just step out for half an hour, get away from that screen. Or if you're at home still working sometimes or not. We all need to recharge. My go-to place is just being outside.
Yeah, in nature.
I love the great outdoors and bringing my special people together. So they're my ways of just relaxing and.
I love the outdoors as well.
We live in Australia, so enjoy. And
I'm a beach person.
Yes.
My friends drag me on hikes and like, okay, and then you get out there and I'm like, oh, this beautiful.
Yeah, it's
It
just
really
lovely.
does recharge a battery.
It does, so we have to do it. And we have to encourage each other to do that too.
Yes.
If we can see that one of our work colleagues is getting burnt out, then just have a gentle chat to them and say, hey, you just need a bit of time out for
Yeah.
half an hour or so, or a weekend. Okay.
What's the biggest risk that you've taken?
Oh, look, I've taken a few. This might sound strange, but continuing to study is a risk because it's really sort of can detract me from really focusing and working, a very long houred week, but I'm also passionate about it, so it's not been easy. But I was focused on continuous improvement, I still am, and future-proofing my career. So I worked 2 jobs to go to college 2 nights a week, way back, when the kids were little, paid for a nanny out of one of the jobs to take them to their activities, cooking dinner and help out. My husband was travelling all the time. While I studied and focused on my goals, thanks to my sister again. So
on your plan.
Yeah,
on your plan.
So I joined a startup organisation, which was a risk. You sort of look at startups and go, ooh, that's not a stable organisation. Am I going to get paid? Is it going to go under? That is a risk, but it was also a great challenge for me. And
what did you get out of that risk?
I learnt that I was very resilient and that I was even more capable than I realised, and that I could achieve significant outcomes. And what was great about being a startup is you can see results really quickly.
Yeah.
When you're doing good things, it's pretty exciting. So that was a risk, but it paid off. I also took a risk early in my career for a role. This was interesting. This was many years ago that I went for an interview that sounded interesting, and it was through a recruitment agency originally, and I said, well, can you tell me who the company is? And they said, we can't give that information out. So I thought this is either really bad or I'm quite interested in what that might be. So by the time I got to the 3rd interview, I was kind of hooked in, and I found out and I was offered the role to work for the British Diplomatic Service.
So they didn't tell you until the... Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of classified information around it. And it was, so take risks, people, you just never know where things might land. It was the best role that I've had in many years, and I'm very glad I took that risk. And
So tell us what's been one of your biggest challenges, the biggest challenge that has propelled you forward.
Oh, I guess this is actually more personal, but it did involve my career as well.
Yeah.
So my biggest challenge was a decision that my husband and I made to leave the UK and have a couple of years venturing and working in another country. We thought it was, many people have secondments when they live in Australia, and we thought that was a great plan. But when we arrived here, my husband loved it so much he didn't want to move back. And that was...
that's what Australia does to you.
Yeah, exactly. But that wasn't my plan. And making that decision to permanently leave behind family, friends, a career that I had on hold over there as well, was the hardest thing I've had to do in my life. And so it did affect my career progression a little bit to begin with. I was offered a role in the embassy here in Sydney, but I didn't want to do that. I needed to re-establish myself. So I took on some consulting for a while, and that was another risk, I guess. But it also made me who I am today. Because once you don't have support structures around you, you don't have family, friends, job, you have to dig really deep. So those people that have moved overseas, you know what I'm talking about, and you take accountability. And I guess that's probably now why I'm who I am. I apply that to my work, and I think that's helped me achieve the success that I have.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, but it was a big deal. It was a big challenge.
Yeah, and you've done so much throughout your career. You've achieved quite a lot. Was there ever a time that you struggled with your self-belief or struggled with your confidence? And if there was, how did you overcome that?
To be honest with you, I haven't.
That's brilliant.
I haven't, but I think, I don't know why, I was reflecting about that earlier. I think my father's influence of believing in me and always supporting me may have had a lot to do with it. He ran his own successful business. And he showed me from a very young age that anything is possible if you believe in yourself.
Yeah, right.
And your own abilities. But there was a caveat to that. You need to work hard and you need to be a good citizen. And he just instilled that in our family members, that you can do anything.
Yeah.
You know, you
That's
can
brilliant.
do anything that you set your mind to.
That's brilliant.
Without exception. And, you know, I grew up with those beliefs and,
Yeah.
you know, rightly or wrongly, I guess that's how I ended up where I am. But I think he was definitely instrumental to that self-belief.
And I think what also would have been a huge support with that is because your sister was also in your ear saying, plan, what's your plan, what's your plan? So you had a clear vision.
She's my older sister, by the way. Yeah.
Clear vision of what you wanted, so you took those steps to achieve it, and you had your dad in the background saying, go for it, you can achieve anything, believe in yourself, believe in yourself, believe in yourself. It's such a strong combination.
It is a strong combination, but I'd say that to anyone who's listening, take belief in yourself, and if you commit to something yourself, you can do it, you can achieve it. You can just believe in yourself and stick with it. Stick with your goals, stick with your plans, take small baby steps, take incremental steps, and you'll get there.
And it's very aligned with International Women's Day, which the theme is choose to challenge.
Choose to challenge yourself.
Yeah, so choose to challenge yourself.
Yeah, and I'm still doing that. I'm still challenging myself. I will continue to do that because it just keeps me fresh and energised.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what other women inspire you?
So my mum inspires me. She's the kind, very kind lady, and very hardworking. And she's never ever given up. She's gone through breast cancer.
Wow.
She's gone through all sorts of challenges in her life, but she just keeps on trucking. And you know, that doesn't mean that she hasn't taken knocks.
Yeah.
And that she hasn't had to deal with that and pull herself back up, but she just doesn't give up. And so she's been a great role model. She's worked, I mean, she's much older now. Other than COVID, she's worked continuously throughout her life, and was working, she was still working before COVID hit. So she's a phenomenal, my parents have been phenomenal role models.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, I'd like to share that. But I also wanted to share something about leadership and another woman that I have admired from a distance, and in fact not so much a distance from the other day, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But Gladys Berejiklian, our New South Wales Premier, who's obviously a lady, in the way that she's led through the crisis of our health pandemic, love her or hate her, whatever, gosh, it's been an impossible task to manage a health pandemic. But what I really admire about her is she's stayed true to her values, she's upheld her leadership style through incredibly challenging circumstances, and I admire that immensely. And I was having lunch with a work colleague the other day, and she walked by, and I had to tell her all of those things.
So you got to meet her?
I did. I got to meet her, and I was gushing. Telling her what a great job she's done, because I think she's a great example. As I say, you know, regardless of your political beliefs, she's stayed true, and she's done a very good job for all of us.
Yeah. Steering
New South Wales through this huge challenge.
What has been one of the proudest moments? Give us one proud moment you've had, either in your personal life or your career.
Okay, well, through my career, I guess I'm really proud of myself for being determined and, you know, a few knockbacks along the way, who hasn't, to continually improve, and I've done that, I guess. And I'm really proud of the people that I've managed along the way and I've mentored, because I can see, and I'm still in contact with a lot of them, and I can see that their careers have, you know, carried on the upward.
So it's watching them grow.
Has
and
been
being a mentor to them.
Has been like very, very rewarding, and makes me very proud. On a personal level, I'm also very proud of my adult children, because...
How old are your kids?
They're in their 20s, and in my opinion, it's just about their happiness to me. It's not about, you know, them being X or Y or any particular thing. It's about, are they happy? But Also, are they good citizens? And have they got strong values, and are they kind to others? So they are, and I'm very proud of that.
That's great. One memorable moment in your life, in your career.
Oh, that's been hard because there's been quite a few
What's
really
the
significant.
the one that stands out for you?
I guess recently there was quite a standout that I was publicly thanked amongst a number of people by the chairman of the board of the last role that I held, so not within Nexia, for some of the significant achievements that I delivered to the organisation, some of which were in really challenging circumstances. So to be recognised by the chairman of the board,
that's brilliant,
amongst my peers and colleagues was, a bit humbling actually, but yeah, that was
what an achievement.
That was pretty memorable for me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. On a Saturday morning, where would we find you at 10 a.m? In bed or out now?
No, I haven't got time to do that. I'd probably be having a coffee with my husband on a Saturday morning, or we'd be at the beach together. We like to get out.
Yeah, outdoors.
Get
outdoors in nature.
Outdoors in nature together.
And what coffee do you drink?
I like variety, ladies and gentlemen. So anything that I feel like, whether it's a macchiato or an espresso or a cappuccino, whatever.
Do you have a favourite?
No.
Okay.
I don't do favourites much either.
Oh.
Because I have, it just depends on what I feel on the day.
Yeah.
So,
You just lean towards it. You listen to what your body
wants.
wants.
The body wants what the body wants.
Okay, and our last question, which I think our audience would love to hear, because you've done so much in your career, and I know there's been bits and pieces that you have touched on throughout this conversation, but what advice would you give young women out there who want to be where you are or aspire to be in quite a senior position in a firm like Nexia?
Just get a piece of paper, or old school, because I like to pin it up. I like to see things, but just put
visual.
Put it on your mobile. Whatever you need to do to set your goals. There's probably heaps of apps for that.
Yeah.
I guess some other things I'd say is just you are your own master.
Mm-hmm.
You are your own master. Be engaged with your workplace. It's up to you. Make relationships with your colleagues. You alone can make it happen. Just set your goals.
Yes, of course.
It sounds like 101, but don't underestimate the power of doing that. Finding a good buddy in the workplace can also make a huge difference, not just to well-being, but how you integrate and feel about your work. And when you're energized, amazing things happen. If you don't have one, think about perhaps ways that you might be able to find a good workmate. Together you can chat about how you can support each other with new ideas and initiatives and any challenges you might have. It really does help to chat with someone who you can trust and check in with. And you need to feel that empowerment that you can take that action for yourself.
Yes.
It's up to you. It really is up to you. And if you need that little bit of a step up or a little bit of encouragement, then seek that from others and give that to others, because what goes around comes around. I'm a true believer in that too. The other thing I wanted to add was, remember just the basic things, to say thank you to those that you work with, that make your day go smoothly. From your colleagues, to your managers, to your peers, to your line reports. We're all working together to make our work experiences positive and enjoyable. And because of that, I'd like to thank you all for listening to this interview today. It's been a pleasure to be able to share some insights with you.
Yeah, I think that's great. Kindness goes such a long way. And it's really important to bring that through whatever level that you're at.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate it. From a leader to a junior, be kind to each other. I mean, I know we've been talking about that through COVID, but it will serve you well.
Yeah.
It will serve you well.
Because we're all working together collectively to one goal. So I think, and especially as a leader, to be kind to the people that you work with and vice versa is really important. Thank you for today. It's been incredibly inspiring, and I'm sure our followers now, they have clear steps on what they can do. And again, as you mentioned, set a goal, have your plan, because it gives you clarity with where you want to achieve, with what you want to achieve, whether that's in your personal life or your career. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Tanisha. A pleasure to talk to you.